If you're participating in the Bittensor ecosystem, you have to fight tooth and nail just to stay alive. It is indeed survival of the fittest. My name is Jeremy, aka School of Crypto, and I'm bringing you another Bittensor video. So, this is an ecosystem in which competition is king. You are fighting every single day in order to stay alive as a subnet owner, as a miner, as a participant in the ecosystem. Let's start out as a subnet owner. So you start out with a subnet, right? You push out 800 tau, 900 tau, 1,000 tau for a subnet slot. You secure the slot, you develop your incentive mechanism, and then all of a sudden you have workers trying to build your product for you, which is great, right? Well, if your incentive mechanism isn't very ironclad and it does what it needs to do, you're going to get taken advantage of. So miners, first and foremost, want to get rewards. They want to get paid. Yes, they're very talented. Yes, they contribute immensely to the ecosystem in developing these digital commodities. But if they can find a way to somehow spam the subnet or copy another miner or come up with similar type of work without doing any unique type of work or calculations, they're going to do it. And there have been plenty of times in which incentive mechanisms are not where they need it to be, and they're not developing their product, and they're getting their network spammed, and they're not making moves forward. So ultimately, it's almost like the subnet owner against the miners from the offset, right? But once the subnet owner develops that really good incentive mechanism that gets the miners to do exactly what they want them to do, that's when that stops and you don't have the nefarious activity going on in terms of, miners kind of doing whatever it takes just to get a buck and not actually producing any useful work. So that's first and foremost, as a subnet owner, what you have to deal with. And then secondly, when you're a subnet owner, you have to compete against all the other subnets. So there are 128 subnets currently in the ecosystem, and you have to compete with all these subnets for emissions and for that buy volume. And if you don't get the emissions, if you don't get the buy volume, and your price starts to go down and down and down, it starts to go down to the 0.003 area, 0.002, you have a chance to be deregistered, right? So that is the risk in having a subnet and not developing a product that is being valued by the ecosystem. So the competition is very steep just amongst the subnet owners' peers. So you have to continue to step up your game and make strides and try to get to that almost soda level that a lot of these subnets have gotten to in order to be able to compete for those emissions and have a high tau price, in order to stay alive, right? Survival of the fittest. And the third variable that's involved here is the investors themselves, the community members themselves, me, you, thousands and thousands of other people that have invested in tau. And the subnet owner has a responsibility of actually marketing their product, being in the Discord, staying up to date with their progress and development reports with their community, making posts on X, making sure that everyone's on the same page in terms of their roadmap and what they're trying to accomplish and being on the same page. The market doesn't like uncertainty. And when you have a subnet that ultimately tells you exactly what they're doing and the path that they're on and what they want to achieve and the steps that they're going to take, you're going to have a lot of confidence in that subnet. And there are some subnets out there, like in Discords, that are a ghost town, and you just wonder, what exactly is going on here, And ultimately with any investment, you have to trust the team, right? So you have to capture the imagination of the community members and the investors out there in order to garner investments and therefore get more emissions and therefore have a higher TAL price. So, you're surviving the miners initially, then you're trying to survive the pool of 128 subnet owners, and then you're trying to survive trying to get investments and attention from the investors themselves. So being a subnet owner is not a walk in the park, and I applaud everybody that's doing it and putting in the work and showing the effort of trying to continuously get better and stay involved with what they're trying to achieve. And then just another aspect of what the survival of the fittest theme is being a miner itself. And when you're a miner, you're competing against every single other, developer, AI, ML engineer, coder, scientists, right? Like there's so many different, very talented people in all walks of life that are competing in these subnets trying to get those rewards. A lot of these subnets are winner take all, right? So, a lot of times, it's just one miner and then everybody else loses, right? Like it's either you get 100% or you get 0%. So the competition is steep, and ultimately you're trying to survive that pool. And if you don't get good enough entries, if like for me, like I was trying to mine myself, but since I think Mark Jeffrey said it in another podcast, if you don't have that domain knowledge and you haven't had the experience of knowing how to combine molecules to make certain treatments, like with Metanova, or creating an AI shopping agent like with Oro, or being able to do all sorts of things, like you need to have specific domain knowledge and experience in order to really get over the top. So like I even ran into some issues where I didn't even I didn't even like fit the parameters of like having like a legal like agent, like and I was relying on my Hermes agent or Grok build, and just like putting in all the specifications, right? Like putting in all the GitHub documents, showing examples of entries, and it still wasn't enough, I'm just kind of in the beginning stages of it, but you just have some really talented people out there that are going at it, and it's, again, survival of the fittest. Like whoever is the smartest, whoever has the experience, whoever has that type of coding level or engineering level is going to survive and thrive, and if you're not at that level, you better pack your bags and go home, because there's going to be somebody that's going to beat you. So and that's what makes these digital commodities so amazing, because you have all walks of life with so many skills and so much experience, and going at it with each other, trying to just boost each other up, just in terms of like stepping up the competition. And that is what I call survival of the fittest, because if you're not the best, you're not going to survive, and you're not going to get rewards, and you're not going to be mining on that subnet much longer if you continue to be second place or be 10th place or be 11th place, if it's like a winner take all, or maybe you're not making as much TAO. So ultimately, this video is about how Bittensor is really a survival of the fittest type ecosystem, whether you're a subnet owner, whether you're a miner, honestly, like even if you're an investor, right? Picking the right subnets, obviously you can go with Shoots, you can go with Targon, you can go with Score, like kind of some of the safer bets, right? But, we had a situation with Quasar that was like a context, model subnet that had a lot of hype around it, with like Const being like a really big backer, and they pretty much we're making it all up, so like, it's really like you're almost surviving when you're trying to invest in some of these subnets, right? So that's another aspect of kind of survival of the fittest, like just being an investor in subnet tokens. But for the most part, it's really the angle of surviving as a subnet owner, trying not to get deregistered, trying to get emissions, right? Competing with all the other subnets, trying to have your price high enough in order to not get deregistered, right? And to get a community together and to get volume to really push that price in the place that it needs to be. Again, being a miner, trying to get emissions. Some of these miners, again, I've thrown these stats out, have made 700, 800, 900 tau a month, right? Just for being a really good miner in a subnet. Whereas a lot of other miners, maybe they've only made a half a tau, in a month, or maybe like 1 tau, or maybe like a fraction of a tau, right? So, when there's someone that is that good, it's almost like demoralizing, right? You're like, man, I can't survive against this guy because he's just that good, and I'm just gonna do something else, right? So this is what makes Bittensor what it is the competition, everyone trying to step up their game, and trying to be the best, and ultimately that helps everybody, together, because everybody wants to fight for those emissions, so they have to continue to step up their game. They have to continue to get better, in order to stay alive or to get rewards as a miner. So I really like to look at this ecosystem as a survival of the fittest platform in which competition is king, and ultimately you have to be the best, you have to be exceptional in order to stay alive. And that's how it should be, right? That's how you get state-of-the-art products. That's how you become the best AI ecosystem on the planet. That's how you compete against the open AIs and the Anthropics and the Googles and the co-pilots, right? You need to have that fierce competition, the survival of the fittest type atmosphere in order to get to that level. So super exciting. I'm definitely on my toes in terms of what's going to happen development wise in the next weeks, months, years to come. And tell me, do you think it's like a survival of the fittest type of ecosystem? Like, am I kind of, framing this in the right way, or do you guys look at it a different way? Definitely let me know in the comments down below. And thank you so much for watching. Like and subscribe if you got anything out of this video. Check out my X profile, and I will see you guys in the next one. Take care.